So I wanted to make a video yesterday and I went to do it outside and you could see all the pretty snow behind me. But then it started raining and I was shivering. So that didn't get done. So here I am inside. So I wanted to talk about what were things I would change in this ice storm and what would be things that I would do better. So inside this bunker of mine, I have an overhead heater air conditioner. Works great until the entire unit outside iced up. Then I had no heat. Now, if in another ice storm comes, I need to put a tarp over that, or I need to build a box to put over top of that thing so it doesn't ice up, and then leave it off while it's icing, and then when it finally stops raining, then take it off. Probably would have been a lot better. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put a link in the descriptions. All you guys go buy this. This is a water shut off. You can shut your water off with a pair of ice grips or whatever, but it's not as easy. Okay, and this water shut off is only 20 bucks. Go buy it. Now, one of the things you can do that a lot of people don't consider, especially in Nashville, what they're doing right now, is they're leaving their homes and they're going to get motels, which is pretty expensive. But if you're going to do that, you want to turn around and shut off the water at the street. And then you want to go in the house and drain the taps and then shut your hot water heater off. Now, your pipes aren't going to break because there's nothing in the pipes. So even if that little bit of water is in the pipe starts to expand, it's not going to be a big deal. And that's very important. Now, I did that every time I left the house so I wouldn't come back to a broken pipe and a $400 bill. And the last 2 days of the coldness, I just went, I'm going to shut it off and I'm going to drain the pipes and just leave it for 2 days. Now, the longest I went without water was 2 days. And then it would come back on, it would warm up because that's what it does here in Tennessee. We don't usually get these crazy ice storms. I guess we get them once every 20 years. So in 20 years from now, if I'm still alive, we're going to get another one. But with global warming, who knows? Maybe we'll get one next year. So the snow is melting. All right. There isn't very much out there. And it's a muddy mess out there is what it is. Now that all this is going on. I did buy a synthetic winch rope for the front of my truck. And I couldn't get my steel cable out. It didn't work. I had to hook a strap to a tree in my yard and then hook up the cable and back up and slowly pull it out. And then I was able to get it out that way. The new synthetic rope I bought was like 50 bucks. And it came with the hook. It came with everything. So, and that was a pain in the butt. You got to understand, it was like 32 Fahrenheit, 0 Celsius out there. And I was working on it today. And it took like 2 hours. It was not an easy job. My hands were numb. I mean, they felt like marshmallows. It was just, you watch these guys, you watch these YouTube videos, and these guys do all these things. One guy does it. Everything's perfect. I'm like, who are these people? Because I was out there for 2 hours. So I did get it out. And mine was set up where you put a screw in it, and it screws into the side of the drum. But I backed up too far and yanked the screw out. And I was praying, God, I hope I didn't strip that. So then I went to the hardware store and I bought 3 screws, same thread size, and I just bought each one a little bit longer. And I paid like $1.50 or something. So I come back, I set it up, I put it up, I screwed it in. Perfect. Now, before I did that, I was putting the rope on to see which way, out, in type of thing. And I put it on backwards. Of course. 50-50 chance of doing that. And of course, I put it on backwards. Take it all off, put it back on, and wrapped it like 4 times. And then I noticed it grabbed. And it was going the right way. So then I put the screw on, put it in the side, tightened it. And then I started pulling it in. And it went on beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So now I have a beautiful synthetic rope. Comes out, comes in, got a new hook. Everything's great. If I put my other tools I have in the back of my box for towing or yanking or pulling myself out, it's going to be beautiful. So I'm glad I got that done. Now, I did put a pail over my gas meter over the round thing. That was smart. I did put a pail over my spigot. That was smart. One thing I should have done, and I'm going to do it today, is my water meter sits out in front of the house. And it's a big concrete thing, right? I'm going to bring that in. I'm going to brush it down. And I'm going to paint it red. And then I'm going to put it back in the ground. Now, when I went out there to find it, because I wanted to turn the water off, I couldn't find it. It was covered in snow. It was covered in ice. So I'm out there with a regular round-nose shovel, banging the ice, taking it apart. I'd originally told my son to do it, but, and we've turned that water on and off 1,000 times. He forgot where it was. He was way off. So I went up there, had a good idea. I did find it, and we cleared it out, and then we were able to get at it and shut it off. But you really want that tool. I'm telling you, go buy it, $20. It'll just be amazing for you. And that's the biggest thing when in wintertime, winter storms. It's not just ice storms. Okay, if all of a sudden you break a pipe or something goes wrong and it's too cold and you see water pissing out of the side of your house, that's costing you money. That can turn into a ton of money. And with this tool, you'll go out, lift the lid, put it down, turn it, water's off, you're saving money. And that's it. My neighbor across the street, now she is a woman, and I don't say that to be mean, but she originally had a pipe break and she didn't know to do that. She didn't even call me. Because we know each other very well. I'm surprised she didn't call me. And she just let it keep draining. It drained for like 3 days. I guess she was waiting for her father. I have no idea. But when the bill came in, it was over $1,200. She didn't know what she was going to do. And that can happen very quickly. Now, I have an electric heater in my bathroom. And the reason I have an electric heater in my bathroom, I never used to. Okay, but the one year, my toilet actually cracked. No kidding. So now I keep an electric heater in there. My power bill went up $110 just because of that electric heater. Okay. A lot of people said, well, run your pipes, drip your pipes. My next door neighbor did that. His pipes never froze. And I'm cheap. I like to save money. I'd rather spend more money on a steak or go buy something for camping or something like that than to just turn it on and just watch my money go down the drain. Oh, that irks me something bad. And I know a lot of people do it. I'd rather go out and shut the water off, drain the pipes, and then be without water for a couple days. I filled the bathtub of water, which I dump in the back of the toilet and flush. Somebody said you could just pour water in the bowl and it would flush. I know you can do that, but that's how we did it, and worked fine. I have 5-gallon jugs. They're septic tanks or something. I mean, I bought 5 of them. They're quite expensive, like $225. And I have them. And when a storm comes in, I fill them up with water. I take them when I go camping. I mean, I have a filter that I put on my hose that I put the water in this thing. I don't run out of water, whether when I'm truck camping, when I'm going someplace. Like if I drive a long distance, I'll have an entire setup, like my bug-out bag with me. And literally, I just have tons of water. Don't run out. But and that's fine. Now it was cold here in the bunker. I was hitting 50 degrees, 45 degrees. That was cold. And my last video, I had me in a sleeping bag, if you noticed. So I was able to be on the computer, watching movies, whatever I want, and put the sleeping bag on me. Now that is a Western Mountaineering sleeping bag. That one there runs about $1,000. It has extra feathers in it. I paid to have extra put in it. Some people will say, well, I can't afford $1,000. That's too much money. You know what's funny about that? That is not true. Okay? I seen people buying generators like hotcakes. People that were selling, generators that were $600 for $1,200. And they were buying them. They didn't care. So there are people out there who do have the money. And even Walmart had a big, like 4 pallets of generators when I first walked into the store there. And people were buying them just off the shelf like crazy. So you can go a couple different ways with this, okay? You can buy the generator if you lose power, and you should have a generator. I mean, I got 2. And if all of a sudden you have no power, you need a generator to keep that food good in the freezer and the fridge. That is your major concern. Nothing else. That fridge and that freezer. Okay? And you don't need to run it all the time. People were running it to play their video games. I was just like, are you kidding me? Literally, you will run it for maybe a couple hours and then shut it off for 6, then a couple hours, and that's how you save fuel. You're just trying to keep the fridge and the freezer cold, nothing else, so you don't lose your food. But my power only went out for maybe, I don't know, 2 or 3 hours at the first, and then it never went out at all. But I'm right in town. I'm not far from the courthouse. All the local businesses are around me. I mean, they want my power out pretty quick. And my internet never went down either. So, and I thought it would, but I was surprised it didn't. But that was pretty good. So, if that happens, then I didn't even use my generators. I didn't even need them. Now, I had a lot of propane in the big tanks. You put under a barbecue. I gave those to people. I figured, I do have a propane heater that I can swap over to, but propane does emit carbon dioxide, and you have to make sure you have that detector and everything. That is very important. I have 3 dogs down here, myself, and I really don't like messing with carbon dioxide, even when I go camping. A lot of people will have those wood stoves, and they'll do that type of camping, and it's a nice warmth. But I prefer to have an expensive sleeping bag, a good thermarest pad, and, I've got a $1,400 setup for sleeping in the middle of winter, and I can go down to -20 pretty easy. So when I went to bed, I would have 2 thin blankets, and I'd throw my Western Mountaineering sleeping bag, and within about 10 minutes, me and my dog warmed right up. We were very warm. And I'd get it and zip it back up and then, jump into it and then sit on my computer desk and do whatever I wanted to do there. I was playing Division. Division 2, great game, by the way. I was playing that while this whole thing was going on. I was just bidding my time, until it warms up. Like now it's getting warm. We're in the 40, 50 Fahrenheit. Everything's melted, but tomorrow I think it'll all be gone. I think we have maybe 100 people without power right now. They've gone 7 days. Now those people needed generators, to keep their fridge and keep their freezer going. But I have a ton of camp stoves. I have lanterns. I have candles. I have everything. There were people that they were interviewing in Nashville because the NES company, I think it was called, it's a horrible company for power. It's like they didn't want to call in an alignment. They didn't want to do nothing. I was like, oh, man. And those people pay heavy taxes in Nashville, believe me. So I can understand. The CEO admitted, and it's a woman CEO. Again, I'm not coming down on him, but, a little common sense goes a long ways. And she said the money had been invested someplace else. They didn't have the money to bring in the extra alignment. I don't know. It's one thing after another. Those poor people are still suffering. Today, right now with this video, going on 8 days with no power. They're telling them another 2 weeks. That is just horrible. Horrible, horrible, horrible. Now, something I did notice during the storm, okay? A lot of times I see videos, they send to you, and in the videos you see some women say, I don't need a man. A man, don't need him. I could live in a place with no men. I call bullshit, okay? There was not one woman out there that I seen that was yanking trees out of the roads or cutting the trees with chainsaws or climbing the lines, replacing the wires. Not one woman. Nowhere. I don't know where all the women were. They must have been in the house in the bed, cuddled up underneath their covers. Because there was no women out there anywhere, and I went quite a few places. I was dropping off propane tanks. I was doing welfare checks. It was just amazing. No women at all. But yet I see these videos of women saying they don't need men. We are built different. That's what women don't understand. And we don't care if we're uncomfortable. We don't like it, but we don't care. We'll get out there and we'll freeze. Like today when I was putting that, that synthetic rope in, my hands were freezing. 2 hours took me to get that in. I don't see women doing that stuff. When we cut our hands all up, like take a look. That's just part of being a man. And that's just the way it is. So if these women really believe they can do all this, all the power to them. Now, don't get me wrong. There are women out there that can be in the armed forces, and there's women out there that can do what men do. Yes, there are. But again, it's a very small percentage of women that do that are built like that. All right. On average, the majority are not. And like I said, I didn't see any women anywhere out there. Now, when my winch broke and it wouldn't come out, well, it didn't break, it just kind of spun in there. And I couldn't get it out. I thought, well, that sucked. Now I have tow ropes also in my truck. We were using those. So I would only have to cut a tree in half just to take some weight off it. I could hook a tow rope up to it and wrap it around my big push grill I have in front of my truck and just yank the trees out of the way. I must have yanked, coming from the one city home, close to 22 trees off the road. I had 8 cars behind me, and they were trucks. They didn't have four-wheel drive. I had 8 trucks behind me that were following me, and they would kind of just sit there and wait for me and some other young guy to go and take care of business. He was like 27. He knew how to use a wrench, a saw. I mean, he was a great service. He really was. His dad taught him well. And we worked together good as a team. We'd have a tree off the road, and I swear in less than 5 minutes. That's how fast we did that, And he was coming into town to get some gasoline for his generator. And I said to him, I don't know how well you're going to do getting home. He says, well, maybe some neighbors will help me if there's another tree down. Because as fast as you took the trees off the road is as fast as they were falling. It was crazy. Now, around my house, I cut every tree down. I did that 20 years ago. And that was in case of tornadoes. I didn't even think of an ice storm. Didn't even enter my mind. So I have no trees around my house. Nothing to fall on my house. I was seeing Facebook posts of big limbs falling on top of people's $30,000, $40,000 vehicles. I was like, oh my God. They even had video of it. And that just blew my mind away. And why would you park your vehicle under a tree? But, hindsight's everything. They weren't thinking that. And that's what it is. I am so glad I cut the trees down around my house. So very glad. And the only thing I was dealing with was water went out for a couple days. It was hard to walk. Coldness was a little bit to deal with, but not bad because I have the gear. And that's very important. Do you have the gear? Some people said get a pellet stove. Some people said run a wood stove. Believe it or not, there was a lot of people in the area running out of pellets. They were running out of wood. They were running out of propane. That's why I gave my tanks away to people. They had kids. They had no heat. I thought, well, I can handle this. It's no big deal. I've camped in this before. I don't really need the propane. They did give me back my tank. Some of them did give me money. Not all of them. Gave me $20 or whatever to buy some more propane. But, hey, that's okay. That's here and there. But overall, this will be my last video on the storm. And it'll be here for people to watch. Now, there was another thing I noticed. A woman in Nashville had a store where she sold cactuses and stuff like that. And she lost everything. She went to an insurance company to claim $100,000 in loss. And at first, they were going to cover it. But then they said they wouldn't. All of a sudden, she had to pay a GoFundMe she had. And the next thing you know, she got in that GoFundMe within a day or two up to 80 grand. And I was like, well, that's interesting. Now, she said she was going to take it to court. So if she takes it to court and she does win and the insurance company pays her the 100 grand finally, is she going to give those people back their money? I don't think so. There's also a whole bunch of other things going on where people are showing up saying, yeah, I'll remove your trees. I'll do this much money. And then they pay 50% down and the guy don't come back. There's all kinds of warnings about that going on. Okay. We have in my area a big program where the jail, the guys cut wood. And they usually give that wood to people that are disabled or people that are old. But during this storm, they were giving it to everybody for free. They had 3 separate depots where people could come, get the wood they needed, and head back home and kick off their wood stoves. So that was really nice in my area. We had 3 other places, 3 warming centers scattered around. One was the reserves. Another one was a radio station. Another one was a church. They made big stews, and they had cots out. You get a hot shower. All that was going too. So my water's frozen for 2 days. Had my water been frozen for a solid 7 days, I would have went there and grabbed the shower. I wouldn't have slept there. I didn't need to, but I would have grabbed the shower. But, I've gone 7 to 10 days camping, and you smell pretty ripe after that. But embrace the smell. That's what you do. The suck, as they say. But I didn't find it too bad. But a lot of people did. A lot of people had a hard time. There was one one couple with 3 kids, and they were renting, and the whole house burnt down. What they did, electric heater, who knows? There's nothing on that yet, and now they're posting like crazy, looking for a place to stay, asking landlords, does anybody have a place I can rent? And they were saying they need $700 a month rent. I don't know that they're going to find that, because obviously whoever they were renting from was pretty good to them. Most rents I see are $1,200 a pop. That's what I see. My house is paid for, my truck's paid for, my cars are paid for. I don't have any credit. I mean, I have credit cards, but all paid for. Everything I have is paid for, cash. Okay? I have no bills other than gas, water, electric, internet. That's it. That's all I have. So when you get old and you get it all paid off, life gets easier, and that's guaranteed. But that's the whole idea of why you work toward that. But that's another video. But if you're a woman, I didn't mean to offend you. I really don't. But it's just what I saw and what was going on. One woman had contacted me in a different city, and she wanted me to drive her to Lexington, which was a good 3-hour drive. And I said, I'd be glad to, but it's not no 3 hours. I'm not on these roads. I said, I'd be looking at 6 hours just to get there. I says, you need to sit tight and wait for another 4 days till the temperatures come up and then the roads are good and then you can go. And she says, I know, I just want to get home. I says, well, you're not getting home. There are trees down everywhere and you need a hefty duty truck to do it. And I says, my winch is down right now, which I have to fix. So, and that's the thing. You want backup after backup after backup. Okay, winch went down, I got tow ropes. I got a handsaw. I got a chainsaw. I mean, I have everything that I go down the line is what I do. And that's what prepping is. I mean, they give it a fancy word that most people think they're nuts. But really, all it is people going in levels. For example, okay, we've got extra heat. We got kerosene, or we got wood stoves, or we got pellet stoves. Again, all these fuels will emit carbon dioxide. And that is very important. You don't want to kill yourself. We had people dying because of that. Apparently, they say we had something like 60-something people that were submitted to hospitals because of carbon dioxide. This shouldn't happen, okay? They had their generators in the garage. I mean, really? Come on. What are you thinking? You can't do this stuff. And even though the news tells them, don't do this, don't do that, don't do this, they don't listen. They still do this stuff. And I'm just amazed at the level of stupidity and the level of common sense that's gone. It really is. And you know what's funny about this? The older people, like my age, 60 years old, 50, the older people up there know all this. They don't do that. The people that are being submitted to the hospital is a 27-year-old. I'm like, oh no, what happened? Did you miss the boat? Like, it's just hilarious of what went on with that. But that is just crazy. But anyhow, this will be my last storm video, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.